employer event. We've got a fantastic session lined up today with wonderful guests from Diageo, who you're going to be hearing all about in just a moment. We've got Madeline, Maya, and Jana. My name's Toby as well. If you're coming for the first time, founder of Diverse, and we're here to help give you free careers education to get you ready for your next step in your career journey. So before we get kicked off, let me know who's here in the chat. All you guys are very active already. We've got Maya, Grace, Jennifer. Why don't you drop a quick hello if you're there in the chat? And maybe let me know if this is the first time you've come to one of these sessions, or if you went to another session, which session did you come to? Just make sure the chat's working for you. And throughout the session, guys, as always, do add your questions in. So we've got the Ask the Question space just at the top to the right of the chat. We put this on just for you, so we want to make it really, really specific. So if you've got any questions that come up throughout the chat, then do drop them in there in the question space, and we'll get to all of those at the end. No silly questions at all. This is all about you. So please do be engaged and take as much out of the session as you can. You might see at the pin to the top of the chat there is the link to the Diageo graduate roles that they have right now. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And we've actually got a couple of guests on who are on the grad scheme right now. So this is going to be really, really interesting if you're looking for a graduate opportunity, of course. So I'm going to introduce our guests quickly, and then we'll get into the panel. So, Jana, do you want to go first? Just say a quick hello and let us know what you do, and then pass it on to the team.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Toby. Welcome, everyone. So my name's Jana. I'm an early career specialist at Diageo. So I'm actually the one supporting with a graduate program across Europe. So I'm very, very excited to be here today. I see the activity in the chat. It's a lot of first timers here. It's first time for us too. So I'm really, really happy and excited to connect with you guys. And later on, I'll be very, very happy to answer any of the questions that you might have regarding our, company, but also the graduate program that is currently live. So as Toby mentioned, just go on that link that he pinned to the board and have a look what are the opportunities out there. Thank you.
Perfect. And Maya, do you want to say a quick hello? And then Madeline after that, and then I'll take over from there.
Sure. So hi, everyone. I'm Maya. I'm on the second year of the GB Commercial Graduate Scheme. So a lot of background in terms of I came from a business background, but now in the business, and it's my second year. So first year I worked with Morrison's, and I'm now working with Green King. So Morrison's being the grocer, and now in Green King being the pub chain. So national account executive for both the roles, but very, very different. So I'm sure we'll go into that a little bit more later on. But I'll pass it on to Madeline.
Hi everyone, I'm Madeline. So I'm also my second year, but I'm on the supply chain and procurement graduate scheme. So my first year I worked predominantly on Guinness manufacturing site, and then currently I'm working as a business planner for Africa. So super varied, a lot of different interests, but a great opportunity.
Really exciting. Yeah, and we had a chat not long ago about what you two have been getting up to, and it's really impressive, a lot of responsibility. So yeah, love to hear more about that. What I'm going to do before we get stuck in, everyone, is run a quick poll. Elephant in the room. Have you ever heard of Diageo? So before this session, or before all of our emails that we've been throwing at you, had you actually heard of Diageo before? Be completely honest, it's actually anonymous as well. So yeah, let us know if you'd heard of them before, or maybe you'd heard of them before but you didn't know exactly what they do. Let's have a look at that. So got a bit of a mixture. So some of you have heard of Diageo before, so about 45%, maybe 50%, and then the rest not so much. So brilliant. Okay, that's more than I expected, actually. Fantastic. So half of you have heard of Diageo before this, so that's brilliant. And then what about these brands then? So which of these brands have you heard of and know about? I imagine a few of you probably have heard of these. So Ciroc, Bailey's, Captain Morgan, Guinness. Okay, everybody. There we go. We're talking to uni students here. So interesting. Okay, that's good to know. Everyone's heard of those. As I said, guys, so we're going to have a bit of a chat about some of these roles and what it's like, what life is like working at Diageo. But please do share your questions. So as I said, top of the chat there, you can see just to the right the little question mark. Add your questions in there, and we'll make sure we get to those. And be really specific, be really selfish with your question and our time here, and let us know what you want to know. We've got a really rare opportunity where we've got grads on, and also Jana, who looks after the TA, which means she's the one in charge of the application process. So we've got an amazing opportunity to hear from them. But should we start just there then, Jana? So do you want to take us through a little bit, actually give us a little bit more of an overview then of Diageo as you see it. And obviously we've shown some of the brands there, but just so everyone has a clear understanding of exactly who Diageo are. Oh, Yana, I've just lost you. Are you on mute?
I'm on mute.
Ah,
3 years in, guys, of doing the online things, and I'm still on mute. Can't believe it. Yeah, no, thanks, Toby. Yes, no, so Diageo, a fantastic company. Obviously, we are a company that manufactures alcoholic beverages. We have a portfolio of over 200 brands. And even though you guys might not have heard of it, as I can see in a poll, you obviously heard about our brands. So very exciting to see. Diageo was set up in 1997, and since then we tried to acquire as many exciting portfolios of different beverages as you can see now. So yeah, that's a little history. We have a beautiful saying at Diageo that character is everything, but also celebrating life. I think that's our purpose, but of course also drinking responsibly. So today I'm hoping to share, a little bit more about what it's like to be part of Diageo, and ladies today, Madeline and Maya, could share their experience as well.
Yeah, let's do that. And by the way, guys, if you hear any gems during the conversation that you think are really, really valuable, write that in the chat and put a little gem emoji as well, and everyone else can focus on that too. And we'll make a list of those as well afterwards.
Love the gems.
But yeah, there's going to be a few gems. So Madeline, why don't we start with yourself and go into your role a little bit more in detail? Can you let us know sort of what you tend to get up on a day-to-day basis, and the kind of projects that you get stuck into at Diageo?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I'm currently a business planner for Africa. So what that means is I'm working with both the supply team and the demand team. So those actually in Africa on the markets, selling our products, but also those who are planning what the amount we're going to sell is, what products are doing well, what the trends are, looking at 1 month, 3 month, and 18-month horizons. So it's super varied. I'd say on a daily basis, there are, certain meetings I have to attend, but really it's, oh no, if something's going wrong, or what can we do to change something? It's incredibly varied. In terms of projects, right now I'm working on innovation. So that's new product launches in Africa. So I can't really say exactly, but say if there was a new Ciroc, there isn't, but say there was, what are we doing to plan the volume for that? Who are our market, and even down to what supermarkets would best be launched. So it's really interesting. And so yeah, as I mentioned, I'm on the supply graduate scheme, so slightly different from the others, but just as interesting, I hope.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And so in terms of that then, well, super interesting, number one, that you've mentioned there, the international scope of this as well, because I think a lot of the graduate schemes that we've talked about on similar episodes have been very much focused on the UK, but you obviously are focused on Africa, which in itself is quite interesting. How has that been then for you?
So it's been incredible. I felt really lucky to get this role in my second year. I'd said that I was deeply interested in working with the Africa market, so it really aligned with my vision. But I also know other people who maybe on the year above me were able to go to Mexico, and we're working in Mexico on the supply graduate scheme. So there's a ton of travel opportunities, which is obviously an incredible, if that's something you're interested in. But also there are local opportunities if you're more of a homebody. I think it's as varied as you want to make it. So
yeah, definitely. And there's a supply graduate role again this year. Maybe Aisha, who's in the chat, you could grab that and put that in the chat. That would be great. In terms of that sort of prediction of the volumes and sort of doing that analysis, is that a lot of sort of data analysis where you're looking at past volumes last year and the year before and trying to figure out where things are going to go? Or is it more, I don't know, having interviews with people and different experts and things like that?
Yeah, so my role, I wouldn't actually be, I don't create the forecast. So there are digital tools, and then also there are demand planners who look to, say, the political fluctuations, the economy, and that will help us with the forecast. I'd say it is a lot of Excel, but it's nothing too crazy, because I even went into it, I was like, oh, do I love Excel? No, I don't. But you do get the hang of it pretty quickly. And they are always here to help and say, why don't you take this training? it would really benefit you. I try not to be too insulted, but no, it's all for the best.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's really interesting when you take those insights and then you kind of see it, really impact what the business does in a real way. So that must be really cool. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, guys, definitely check out the supply chain graduate role, and we're going to hear even more about that. But yeah, I wanted to add you in as well, Maya. Why don't you let us know the same on your side, a little bit more what you do, because I think sometimes when you see these job titles, it's not immediately clear what that really means. But some of what you do, obviously, our guests would have seen from a customer's perspective. So it'd be interesting if you could walk us through that as well.
Cool. So in my first year, when I first joined the company, I hope everyone's heard of Morrison's, and if not, they're now the 4th largest grocer in the UK, but 3rd largest still in terms of their drink side of the business. So I was Morrison's national account executive. Now, it sounds really fancy, but what it actually is, if I break it down, is a lot of turning on and off promotions is kind of one of the big ones that you really do. So, if something is normally at £15, when it goes down to £12, making sure kind of that actually gets over the line and crosses that line. And cash is a huge thing as well. So one of the internal things about being a national account executive is cash collection. And what that means is making sure that the money that Morrison's owe us actually comes in the right time frame. Whereas also at the same time, whether we're paying Morrison's in the right time frame. So I started off with that. Once I kind of got it down to where it needed to be and the right kind of time frames, it's also then working with new product launches. So a lot of like what Madeline was saying is like making sure they launch in the right supermarket, making sure they launch in the right time period as well. So that's a big thing, because with grocers you tend to have something called a range review, and that happens twice a year. So a lot of that is like, I think everyone's heard of like shrinkflation at the minute. You know how like a Mars bar has gone down like 20 grams for the same price or whatever, right? So like that still happens in your supermarket, where like you'll go in and you'll see what was like 30 bay before is now like 20. Now, how do we make sure that our brands continue to show up in the right way? That comes at 2 times a year. So really making sure we're staying on top of that. But at the same time, kind of once I manage cash with Morrison's, they now have a convenience and wholesale arm that's kind of growing. So it also came from there that I became a national account manager for that part of the business. So I handled a P&L, so a profit and loss statement, of about £6 million turnover, about every 6 months or so. So 12 million NSV, we call it, net sales value. So really making sure that I'm working with the right buyer to make sure that we have the right range in. Do we have the right promotions going live? So I think, Toby, I'm not sure if you got it, but I sent you I sent you over like a couple of pictures. So with Morrison's, a lot more of it was like in-store activation. So that's when like you see a huge end takeover. Yeah, exactly. So you'll see like these are what we call in the middle. We've got a free standing display unit. We've got aisle markers and dummy boxes and things like that. So all of this actually, we really make a point of trying to activate in all the different touch points, so that the customer, so when you go into a store, you can see loads of these different things. So that's what I did with Morrison's. Now, so this is some of the stuff that I was able to do. So I went to Twickenham, went to the rugby, that Morrison's had a short lives ball. There's grocery aid balls, so it was quite cool. We saw the script live, which was really fun. And the top left-hand picture is actually when going out with my team. So a lot of collaboration both in and out of work, which is always fun. And then this year, what I've actually started to do, so I just started last month in September, I started working with Green King. So obviously the pub chain. Now this is a huge change, and even though it's the same national account executive role, what you do in the role is really different, because one of the, I think, key things that you guys will know if you want to work in Diageo is there's a huge difference between off-trade and on-trade. Off-trade is where you consume alcohol off the premises. So you buy the alcohol in a supermarket, you take it home and you have a drink, or you take it to the park or wherever you want to go. But then if you're drinking on premises, that's called on-trade. And so with Green King, it's a lot about how can we make people, turn up in the pubs and want to go. So one of the big things, I'm already working on the Six Nations for next year. So very far planning out ahead.
Very cool. No, that was good to have that explanation as well, because I'm not sure everyone is super clear on that sort of off trade and on trade, and maybe not have heard of Green King, because I think Green King is a lot of maybe people know their local pub and they think of it, but they don't necessarily know it's a Green King pub as well. So, and
Yeah,
just
there's
on
about,
that, just
yeah,
on the
of course.
activation that you've shown, Maya, for anyone who might not be clear, why are those so important? Because you kind of walk past them and you think, okay, that looks nice, or you don't really think about it from a marketing perspective. But could you give us some insight as to why those sort of activations, and maybe you can explain why they're called activations, but why
Yeah, cool.
they are so important? Yeah.
Cool. So, I mean, we call them activations because normally you just find the drink on the shelf. But they're activations because we're kind of trying to draw attention to those hero brands for that time. So, for example, in dry January or in January, you'd hear a lot about non-alc. So, non-alc in general is just growing massively in grocery, and Guinness 0.0% is, incredible at the minute. We're, aiming for 100% distribution in the next couple of months in terms of Green King pubs, and that's just 1,500, 2,700, depending on, whether you're including just Green King or whether you're including their pub partner line. But what it means is we're driving attention to those kind of hero brands that we may want to focus on at that time. So, for example, in summer, you're quite fun, you're quite going out, it's all about like flavor. So a lot of the time we have Flavor Fest in summer because you're really trying to draw attention to the flavors rather than maybe just Gordon's London Dry or Tanqueray London Dry. You may want to look at like Tanqueray Blackcurrant Royale or Gordon's Sicilian Lemon. And that's why we call them activations, is because we're like focusing on the key kind of hero brands at that point in time. And the reason we do them is to drive awareness, I guess, as well. Sometimes it's like, okay, people may know about Gordon's, London Dry, but they may not know about Sicilian Lemon. People will know about, but let's say like White Peach, for example, or even Smirnoff. Like we recently launched Smirnoff Cherry, so that's a new one. So really trying to widen people, like kind of bring awareness to what's available as well, because at the end of the day, consumers want choice and we want to give it to them.
Awesome. Really exciting. And it's kind of a mixture of, you've got commercial in there, you've got marketing, so a really good foundation, I think, to start your career, right? So, well, I guess in terms of which you applied for, was it the commercial and marketing, was it? Yeah.
No, it's just literally commercial. So, what I will say is, I think, as with a commercial grad scheme, you get quite a lot of flexibility, I think, in terms of what you can go into. So, we're quite close as a cohort. So there was 7 in my year. And yes, I was national account executive and one other person was a national account executive, but someone else was in customer activation. So that is making what you see in store or what you see in pubs when you see like goalpost outside or whatever that is, that's what they did to go live. So there's so much breadth, and even though it's commercial, there are still marketing aspects to it, I would say. A lot of Excel, but I promise you will get Excel training.
Nice, lots of Excel training. Well, that actually leads us on nicely, actually. So, Jana, would you be able to give us a bit of an overview of the schemes that are live right now and what people can expect, and maybe go for if they're interested?
Yes, thank you, Toby. But before I go, guys, you now know where to do your groceries and where to go to pub to help Maya out with the KPIs. No, but if it comes to the graduate program, so yeah, we just launched. So on the 25th of September, our roles went live. So that's for the graduate program that will be starting in September 2024. So the main areas and like in general, like how we like to talk about our graduate programs, we have 6 different graduate programs. So it is marketing, commercial, supply. We have HR, digital and technology. And I always forget that one, the last one, finance. There you go. So there's 6 of them. So also, like if you actually look at the link that Toby has shared with you, you will see that some of them are more like local. So they mentioned the locations such as GB or Ireland. Some of them mention Southern Europe. Okay, so that's like another graduate program that we actually do have. It's a combination of actually commercial and marketing, because usually in Great Britain and then like in Ireland, we usually have it separate. So we have commercial separately and marketing separately, where in Southern Europe and Northern Europe, which is not live yet, we do combine it. Okay, and then if it comes to HR, finance, and sorry, I'm keeping forgetting, there's like 3 usually. They are our global programs, which means that you can be based in Amsterdam, or you can be based in London, or you can be based in Budapest. So that really depends on really like the business needs and where do we need grads to be placed when you start. Okay.
Really exciting. Yeah. And could you talk us through, and so guys, you've heard there, really wide range of opportunities. So whether you're interested in HR, finance, digital tech, commercial marketing, there's something for everyone, no matter what your degree is. It's not sort of set in terms of you need to have done this degree to do this role. So super broad and I think lots to be excited about. So those are all starting September 2024, right?
Yes. Yes.
And would you be able to walk us through generally or an overview of the application process and what that's like?
Yeah, so first thing that you, Toby, mentioned as well, the beauty of our program and why we're so proud about it and why we love it so much is that when you guys apply, we actually do not look at your CVs or background or your work experience. For us, is the idea and like the name of our program is called Future Leaders. So what we would like to do is like for the grads that are coming in is to in the future become our leaders. So that's why it's very exciting. So when we actually go through your applications, it's all based mainly on like a leadership standards interviewing, so like strength-based interviewing techniques. Okay, so if it comes for the process, how it looks, there's 4 stages. So stage number 1 is just click apply. Okay, and fill in some details in Workday. That's what you will have to do. There's a little questionnaire that you basically need to fill in. In there, you will see that there is a space to attach your CV, but as I said, that's more because it's kind of like set in the system. When you guys apply, we don't look at your CVs, but do attach your CV if you can as well, just so the system lets you through to the next stage. The next stage, so the second stage after you've done that, you should receive a Pymetrics test. So what it is, it's a 12 funny games, and I can see Madeleine and Maya smiling. They can tell you a little bit more about it because they obviously had to go through it as well. And if that is successful, then you will receive a video interview, a link invite. So that's a higher view platform that we use. And this is actually the first time that our early careers get to meet you. Okay. Because the previous stages are kind of artificial intelligence, whereas this one is actually where you guys pre-record yourself and we get to watch your videos. So I always joke that throughout October, November, and December, we don't watch TV or Netflix. We watch your videos, okay? Because there's quite a few of them that are there, like that's submitted. And of course, after that, once you've completed that video interview, when we assess it, we kind of have like an internal scoring matrix, just for you guys to know some insights. But yes, based on that, we then invite the best candidates to our assessment center. And this year we are hoping for them to take place from December, January, and February. So just so you guys have a bit of a timeline, it does take us a little bit of time to watch those videos.
I can imagine. Yeah, that's a lot of videos to go through. And I like the sound of it. I mean, it's not too many stages. You've got to focus for those 3 main stages, right? And then you're done. So, and the game bit at the beginning sounds pretty fun. It sounds a little bit more fun than those sort of numerical tests that you get to do. So any advice on each step of the application process for anyone who's thinking, yeah, actually now I do really want to apply? How can they make sure they do their best through those stages, do you think?
Ladies?
I can go ahead and answer. So I would say, I don't know if you want to go in order. Pyrometrics, I don't know what advice I can really give other than, you just got to stay focused and don't even look away from your computer. It feels like it's a lot of, as someone mentioned, space bar pressing. I don't know how they calculate that. That's a world of itself. The higher view recorded answers, I would just really prepare. So something that I did in advance of the higher view and also later the assessment centers is I was very on it in terms of looking up Diageo in the news and looking at current events, how I could link something that was happening with Diageo to my interests and why I wanted the goal. Also, I found looking at the job description and taking keywords, I would then, this is crazy, but then I would take keywords and try and find a story that I felt represented that word about myself and then link that in. So I felt like I was hitting all of the characteristics they wanted and just sort of creating a story that shows that you're the perfect fit for this role, however you need to.
Oh, that's I've never heard of that before. Was that the values or like the skills listed in the job descriptions? Or
I sort of created, and obviously this is for this role, you can do this for any role, I would say, create sort of a bit of a matrix of what they want and how you can show that that is who you are. And just, personal stories, what you achieved, etc. Can be even, I love cooking. How does that relate to being creative? Anything and everything, I think, is worthwhile.
I like it. Yeah. I think that's a really good idea. We've spoken before about sort of going through the job description and maybe sort of copy and pasting it into a Word document and then like highlighting the skills and kind of using the STAR technique against that to have sort of examples of what you've done. But I think that's a really good idea to think about it in that way around stories and thinking about what because I think a lot of times students think, oh, I've not got any experience, but really you've got life experience, which can be really, really valuable, right? And there's lots of transferable skills that employers love to see, which is exactly why they put on these schemes. Yeah. So what about yourself, Maya? Was there anything you did that you think you did really well on?
Yeah, so I think, parametrics, whole different ball game, no clue, have fun with it. I'm not going to touch it, honestly. I will say with the higher view interview, I think the one thing that is really important is like, why do you want this role specifically? So what about Diageo links in with your personal purpose? So Diageo is a huge company that obviously, yes, it's got a huge name and everything, but like they really believe that the people are what makes the company. So like when Jana said character is everything, they really mean character is everything. And the one biggest thing I think I would say for your higher view and even through your assessment center, touch wood, hopefully you guys get that far. But the one thing I will say is like look at the company, go on the website because there's so much on the website. And I completely agree with Madeline what you said, like find the keywords, but like that goes as well for when you're applying for the job, like in the questions that they ask you in your higher view interview, like answer the question and don't ramble on because you've got 3 minutes. So make sure it's like, that 5 bullet point thing of like, what's the point? What's the evidence? What's the explanation? What's the link? I think use it as definitely something like, like those Peel paragraphs that you have to do at English literature. But then the other thing is like Diageo has 4 leadership standards that are so important to the way that even as a graduate, like we have to do like quarterly reviews, and when we do our reviews, they're based on those leadership standards. So they are kind of the touch points that they use at every single level, and like note them down because even if they don't ask you specifically, like this, show me how you've won through execution. This is kind of what they're looking for. So the 4 leadership standards are winning through execution. So what have you executed? How was that a winning thing? Or even if it was like, I attended class today. Okay, why is that a big win for you? How is that a big win for you? Tell us that. It's not about what you've done, it's why you've done it. The second thing is invest in talent. So like what have you done that's going to shape, that's going to, cause something else to change, or what have you done that's going to change the way something works in the future? The next thing is shape the future. So is it a new ways of working that you've put in place? Is it something that you were like, actually, the way I'm studying isn't working? Now that I've changed from going from bullet points to mind maps, my grades went up by this much. Great. That's how you're shaping your own future here. Invest in talent, shape the future, winning to execution, and gosh, what's the last one I'm missing? I literally had it.
Invest in talent.
I think I said that one.
Did you?
Oh, no, invest in talent. If I did say that, but execution, shape the future, inspire through purpose. So that is a big thing. So like no one's expecting you at 21, 22, 23 to come up and be like, this is what I want to change the world by doing. But like, what drives you? What motivates you? Why is what you're doing? Why are you doing what you're doing? So I would really focus on those like throughout my higher view, but also throughout my assessment center. And just a tip on the assessment center, it is exhausting. I was ready for a nap after. It's only 3.5 hours, and you honestly feel like you've been put through the ringer, but it is worth it. Just stick with it. Okay, like the amount that you learn and like pick up on, even in just those 3.5 hours, like sometimes it's not even about whether you're the right fit for Diageo, it's whether Diageo is the right fit for you. And that is kind of the key time that you'll learn that as well. So I'd say really just stick with it.
Yeah. I remember you said you took a nap straight away after the assessment centre. It's obviously a long day. So be prepared for that. And actually, let us know in the chat, everyone, now that you've heard a little bit more about that. Any of those roles that stand out to you that you think I'd be interested in that, let us know. So you've got HR, digital technology, finance, commercial, marketing. So lots of different options there. Madeline, actually, just on the assessment centre, if you sort of cast your mind back, do you remember if there was anything specific that you did really well in that scenario on that day that you look back and think, that's why I got that job, or not?
Well, hopefully all of it. No, I think so. I'm trying to think exactly. Okay, so I was probably a little bit anal about this. So as soon as mine was on Zoom. So luckily I had everyone's names on the screen. But what I did was I was sort of writing down as I was going this person's name, what I thought, how they were portraying themselves, what they seemed to be interested in, because we all had to do sort of a icebreaker style introduction. And I think although it seems silly, you can really learn a lot about people through that and just their personality as a whole. So I was sort of writing down, okay, this person's interested in reading. I love reading. Let me bring up something that relates to that. And just using that to invoke my answers, essentially, just use everything at your disposal. Even saying, maybe don't do this, but like, I love your dress. You can do anything and everything to disarm someone and make them like you. Obviously, it's the substance that's important, but at the end of the day, I think anything to make yourself a little bit different is worth it.
You sound like a master networker by the sounds of it.
I don't know. I'm actually very shy. So I think I just have to do all these things.
I love those insights, the psychological insights, Madeline. Very clever, very good tips, guys. Yeah, definitely bear that in mind. And if I can add a little bit on the process as well. So going back to the video interviews, there's usually 5 questions, okay, that you need to answer. That's strength-based interviewing. And then there's a little case study that you have to solve. So that's also a little like a tip for you once you get to the higher view interviewing. Another tip that I like to share is that usually the question is made up of a couple of sections, okay? So it's kind of like a one question, but there's 3 parts to it usually. Make sure you answer all of the parts, because I think looking at those videos and later scoring, this is where candidates often do drop a little bit of points if they don't cover it. And as Maya said, if you ramble around, make sure you check out STAR method interviewing. So what STAR method is, so everything about situation, task, action, result. Maya has given a great, example of like going from bullet points to something else. This is what we want to hear, those little details, not just general. We want to hear, like the data behind it, if there's any numbers involved, or like particular, examples that you have. And it could be examples from any walk, like whatever experiences you had in your life. It doesn't have to be work experience. Of course, great if you have it, if you had a summer job, or if you work in a summer camp, or I don't know, if you were part of a sports team, or you took, some roles in like societies, at university or school, or even just with your friends. I've had some fantastic examples with people where they were like motivating their friends going through hard times, and that really shows like the values and things that you believe in too. So very good points on that. On assessment center, again, very good points here. We do have a little icebreaker. Definitely, listen to what the assessors say, because they love to then, speak about themselves. Who doesn't? So, if you like listen to what they said, or joke they cracked, and then later on, if you mention it, oh my gosh, they'd be like, oh, you know, that person, they was so reflective, and then they listened to what we said. So, you know, it's all like those little brownie points, or cookie points. I don't know what's the right
brownie points. Yeah,
brownie points.
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah.
I always confuse brownie with cookies. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. So it's a really good advice from girls. Thanks.
I will say one thing though about the assessment center is like, the people that are assessing you are people that you will see in the office. Like, I've met, I think, all of my assessors now in the office, and they're all like, I remember you said this, and I'm like, did I? Great. But like, obviously I'll remember a bit more about them because, you know, they were so important. And like, actually one of them, for the icebreaker, mentioned, I don't know if it's changed, so I'm not going to give it away, but they mentioned like something that I actually ended up getting one of my uncles for his Christmas present because they enjoyed the same kind of, they had the same hobbies. And I was like, like, it's a great kind of talking point for the future as well. But like, they are people that you'll see in the office. Like, I was sat next to the person who did my interview at a conference, and they were like, you said this, and I was like, I remember you, but my god, you were scary in that in the assessment center, but like, you're so different in person. So you will see them around the office, and like, they are still people who will remember you and want to meet you. So like, once you get through, remember their names, because you can always put in like a coffee catch up with them once you start in the business as well.
Awesome. Yeah, and hopefully that's one of the reasons why we like to put these sessions on as well, because sometimes it can be quite scary when you're going into an assessment center for the first time. But when you meet, you know, Jana, and you hear she's taking the time to do these sessions and wants you to do well, hopefully that gives you more confidence to do your best. And I think we've had loads of really good advice there, guys. So do make a note of that. We heard about the STAR technique, so situation, task, action, result. When you get one of those tell me about a time questions, you want to have that really good structure. So make sure you look at that. And actually, guys, anyone, if you want to go over to our website, we've got an interview prep guide in there where you can go through and practice the STAR technique and practice answering questions out loud to get really prepared. Madeline had a great tip there as well about the networking at the beginning. So remembering people's names. That I think works really well, because then when you do the team exercise, you can say, oh, actually, Maya, what did you think about this? Or I know you're an expert on the commercial side of things. Why don't you jump in on this? Because a big part of assessment centers is to try and see how you interact together, isn't it? So really, really important points there. And great to see so many really good questions as well. We're going to get to those shortly. We've got a bit more time for you to add in a few more questions. So drop those in if there's anything you want to know before getting into the Diageo application process. Just before we kind of get on with that, is there anything else you guys remember about the induction process? So the step once you got offered the roles, anything that you remember in terms of joining Diageo and what that was like, or Jana, anything that you can share on what the candidates can expect this year or next year?
Yeah, maybe ladies, you can start with your experience, and I maybe say what the average has been, because there have been changes since girls joined us. So yeah, maybe like the initial experience that you had, and then I can add some things to that.
Sure, I can start, because I think both of us, Madeline, had quite different experiences just because of the different schemes that we were on. So myself, so I'm on the commercial grad scheme. So we actually were inducted with marketing, other commercial grads, and digital and finance and technology. So digital and technology and finance. So, but not just within GB, but also like in Ireland, Scotland, Madrid, like all around. So all the other grads that were starting at the same time on those grad schemes, we were all inducted together. So I think so all of us, those who were in different locations joined on Zoom. And it was a 2.5 day process induction, I want to say. So honestly, it was the most fun I've ever had. You're meeting like everyone, which is really nice, because even now we have like coffee catch-ups. That like I'm really good friends with someone in Madrid, for example, and my partner's moving out there, and they're helping my partner like find a place, and they're like, if you need anything, let me know. So we all kind of stay in touch through that. But the induction process per se was a lot of finding out about the business. So kind of what the leadership standards are, again, going into a bit more depth on those. A lot of looking at Society 2030. So that's another big thing. Like, I would 100% do your research in when you're applying for Diageo, because it is in everything that we do. So Society study, like really breaking down all the different elements, finding out what they are, what they mean. And then we also did like a really fun thing where we were broken up into 2 groups and we made a cocktail. And we like made that with the bartender. So he was teaching us what all the different parts of making a cocktail were. So that was really fun. And then we all just like spent a lot of time together. A lot of it was, of course, the normal induction things of like setting up your laptop and your email signature and things like that, which, to be honest, really was so useful. Especially if you're coming in for the first time and your first job, it's great to know all these things. But at the time, we were also really lucky because we got to meet Ivan, who at the time was Diageo CEO. So Sir Ivan, all of us got to meet him and were able to ask him any questions. And that's, he's the CEO of Diageo as a whole, Diageo, as an entity, not just Diageo GB. So like, it's very rare that anyone gets any touch time with him that way. But we were really lucky that we did. So we had that as well. And I think induction wise, like as a result, we've kind of still got our grad chat going on, and we all still meet up for like, we all have lunch together once a week or once every 2 weeks. We meet up for a drink every month. We kind of go out of the office and do something together. So that was my induction experience, I think.
Awesome.
Yeah. So mine was slightly different. So the supply chain and procurement graduate scheme is sort of separate than the other functions. So we do it just ourselves. So we had our induction in Edinburgh, at the Edinburgh Park office. So we also, like our entire cohort came. Actually, we joined up with the engineering graduate scheme, to be fair. And we had also a 2-day event where we met people from the business. We had a lot of conversations with other and current grads. We had some senior leaders, not the CEO, unfortunately, but some supply senior leaders coming in, discussing what they did. I think they brought in ex-grads who are now very high up in the company. We also went to Menstrie, which is a site in Scotland, which has, I think it's called the Liquid Library. It's an archive of all the Diageo products, and if you have a chance to even just Google it, it's incredible. It's huge and it's just wall-to-wall bottles, quite startling to see, I would say, and just really exciting to delve into the history. I think it started like in the 1860s or something. So it's huge. It goes back to the roots, like the family roots of the Johnny Walker family. And we really just bonded the shared experience, walking around the site, walking around the offices. And also I think because the supply chain and procurement scheme, a lot of us were in different locations. So my first year, I was the only graduate in my location, but I'd already made a lot of relationships with the people I'd met on this first induction day. So it's great to maintain that connection. They came down, I was able to go back up to Edinburgh, meet people who were there, stay with them. I went up like Johnny Walker, Princess Street Pride, because Diageo sponsored that for the first time, and just a lot of opportunities that came through my first couple of days of meeting people and making friends. So honestly, it was a really great induction.
Fantastic. Yeah, sounds it. Yeah, anything to add to that before we check out the questions?
I think the girls covered everything.
Yeah.
So this year, September 2023, we had 16 new grads joining us in London headquarters. So similar to girls mentioned, we had 3 days of induction. We obviously learned about the company, the brands, different functions. Also, Toby mentioned 2030 goals, something that we're very passionate about. I think one of my favorite moments was actually walking in on one of the sessions for Johnny Walker whiskey tasting, because there was quite a few grads in one room. The smell was so strong that you didn't even have to taste it to get a bit blurry in your eyes. But of course, we also had like other brands, non-alcoholic, because we do believe, there's balance in everything. So we also had like Sidlip tasting, and I think there's one more brand. I can't remember. I remember it was Sidlip and Johnny Walker for sure, because that really stuck with me. So yeah, and what else we usually do? So obviously the induction onboarding, but we also once a year for our second, third year grads, we do connect kind of events in Edinburgh. So Madeleine mentioned a couple of places to visit, this is what we usually aim for our grads to experience. So Johnny Walker Princess Street, but also like the distilleries. So hopefully for those who will be joining us in 2024, you guys can also experience that.
Sounds fantastic. Yeah, so hopefully everyone's really excited by the prospect of joining Diageo and learning a lot and having a great induction experience. So definitely check out the roles, especially that supply chain role that Madeleine is on. That sounds brilliant. And obviously the commercial grad scheme as well. Let's dive into some of these questions, and thanks again everyone for being super engaged and asking so many really good questions. We'll get through those right now. So thanks. The first one is from Grace. So could you talk to us a bit more about the graduate roles based in Europe with regards to, I guess generally it'd be good to know any key differences there, but mainly in terms of the level of language proficiency. So that one's from Grace. Thank you, Grace.
Amazing, Grace. Thanks for your question. Yes, so if you're referring to our commercial and marketing role in Southern Europe, then we do have a language requirement there, and it is Spanish. So hopefully, the level of language that we require for this particular role is C1, which is pretty much fluent. If you think about it, like if you study languages, you'll probably know, but this is the requirement because with the commercial aspect of things, there'll be a lot of different interactions with the stakeholders. So Maya mentioned working with pub chains or working with supermarkets, so there will be a lot of working with people where they not necessarily might have the language skill, English, therefore we do require the language. However, for Ireland, because Ireland's also in Europe, obviously, is no Irish needed there, just English.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you for that one, Jana. Another question here from Yvette. So does Diageo support international graduates in terms of the work visa, or are there any sort of regulations around that?
Yeah, so that's a very good question again. Thanks, Yvette. So I'll be very transparent, guys. Yes, we do sponsor visas and we're very proud about it. And we do support with immigration questions. However, when we set up our applications in our system, there has been a technical glitch. So what's happening that when you apply and you state that you don't have a right to work, you'll be automatically declined. Okay, so please, if you decide to apply for our roles, please wait till Tuesday, because our old technical team is working on redoing the whole back end so that you do not get rejected, because that might be the case. If you now apply and say you do not have right to work, you will get automatic rejection. So please wait till Tuesday. Hopefully by then we'll have it sorted, and then you can apply.
Perfect. Yeah, so make sure you're listening. Anyone who is an international student, wait till Tuesday to submit your application. Question here from Jennifer. Are the roles specifically London-based? So the England roles, obviously we've talked about Ireland. Are they specifically London-based, or can they be done remotely with occasional travel to London? So it might be actually worth covering that off if there's any sort of work from home and hybrid sort of approach as well. And Jennifer's specifically interested in the HR graduate program.
Yeah, so I think, like, ladies, you girls had like different experiences, didn't you? Because you were like working from home a little bit and then working remotely. I think for HR in particular, it really is depending where you're based. So we have this flexible working philosophy / policy. So it all depends on how you agree with your manager on your projects and your tasks, and how many, like whether they require you to come to the office every day or is it just once a week. From what I've seen, our HR grads, because we have a couple in our team, they tend to come to the office twice a week, 3 times a week, because they absolutely love it. Okay, so that's also one aspect of it. But usually it really depends on the projects that you're involved in and the location and the manager. Oh, and sorry, for the location, it's usually London HQ or Dublin or Amsterdam, because we also had cases.
Yeah, great to have that sort of hybrid, flexible policy as well. Very, very inclusive and enjoyable, I'm sure. When I was on a grad scheme, we had to every day we were in the office, no matter what. So you guys have got it better. Question here from Mia. So Mia says she's applying to the marketing graduate role. So yeah, congrats on that, Mia. I would love to know more about the career development and growth opportunities available for graduates within Diageo. Who'd like to jump on that one first? Madeline, you look like you want to jump on. So any sort of career development, growth opportunities within Diageo that you've kind of experienced?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously I'm early on in my career, so I think what's really important is sitting down with your line manager and creating a development plan, and with your HR VP. I found in my first year that was something that we discussed a lot. Where do I want to go, and how and why do I, how do I get there? I'd say on my graduate scheme, they give you so the scheme's 3 years, and they give you a mentor for across those 3 years. And somebody, at least mine, was outside of my, they weren't on the same location as me. So they sat as like head of brand change beer. So I was able to talk to them. I still have such a great relationship with her, talking to her about what I want to do. So when I was looking at my second rotation, I was lucky enough, she put me in contact with a lot of different people who sort of lined up with what I'd like to do. Of course, that's not necessarily, I'm not going to say that's how you get your next rotation or anything like that, but she helped me bridge those connections, meet people, discuss it, put my face in front of people. Then in my second rotation, I've also been given just a mentor for this year as well, who's going to talk to me, or has already started talking to me about my ambitions for the year. How do you come into work every day? What is your impression? What are you giving out, and how can you make sure that that aligns with who you want to be? So I'd say in terms of development, there is so much opportunity, and they do take it really seriously, especially, we call this grad scheme the future leaders. A lot has to go into that. You don't just wake up one day as a leader, you have to put the work in.
I wish we did. That'd be great.
No,
I was going to say, similar to what Madeline said, I completely agree. I think on the commercial scheme, it's 2 years. So it's, you've got less time to kind of potentially get to where you want to be per se. With what I would say is, yes, you get your mentor through kind of just being on the grad scheme, but it's a Diageo-wide kind of thing. Everyone has a mentor. And it's very structured as well, like what you talk about with your mentor, or how that relationship with them can be as structured or as casual as you would like. So I have 2 mentors. So I have one who was given to me as like Diageo graduate, but we also have our employee resource groups, which is a big thing for Diageo as well. And one of them is called Spirited Woman. And I also have my mentor for Spirited Woman. So it's great because both of them are in completely different parts of the business. So I get kind of different bits of feedback and different insights from both of them, which is really helpful to me. And what I would say is, Diageo does a lot in terms of your career development. You've got your mentors, obviously, and your development plan, however you want that to look. So, for example, I have a 30, 60, 90 that I review every month with my line manager. So what do I want to achieve in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? And I kind of look at 2 functional and 1 soft, or 1 soft and 2 functional, depending on the timeline. And we kind of look at that as a benchmark of my day-to-day activities and my kind of overall achievements. But then I also have a 1, 3, 5 year overall development plan. So I build that with my line manager based on what my capabilities currently are and where I'd like them to be. But they also have a tool. Jana, you might know the name of this. I can't remember what it is, but it maps like where you currently are. And then you say, this is actually what I want that job role to be. And it maps where the gaps are. So where, for example, maybe it's more commercial awareness that I may need. Okay, that I know, then I can work with my mentor that's where I need to fill in my gap. So then we'll work on different projects or different people that I can speak to help me bridge that. But yeah, hopefully that answers a few questions.
Yeah,
so maybe perfect. To add to that, sorry, also because I know we mentioned like a marketing scheme. So usually we're quite proud because majority of our graduates kind of enroll into a full-time position with Diageo. It's not like after the graduate program is over, that's it, you're out. We actually are, because we invested time and training into you guys, and also it is quite a hard and difficult, process to get to a graduate scheme. Of course, we would like to keep you with us. So a lot of the times after you finish, we try to find you a role within the business. Okay, if it comes from to marketing, the most common role that I know that the graduates roll into is brand manager role, which is very, very exciting. Actually, you work obviously on activations, but like that marketing perspective as well. So we have some grads, working with some cool portfolios like Captain Morgan, where they do like loads of different events and marketing campaigns, and it's all very, very exciting. Yeah, so that's definitely a full-time opportunity after you roll off the grad scheme.
Amazing. Thank you for that. Yeah, really, really exciting, and lots to learn and develop on. Maya's got 2 mentors, in fact, which is pretty incredible. So yeah, I think that's a massive benefit of obviously being on a graduate scheme, right? There's that development focus. You don't always get that when you're sort of moving into other roles. So question here from Jamal. So correct me if I'm wrong, Jana, but the graduate schemes are all starting next year, so 2024. So obviously, if you're a 2024 grad, that lines up nicely. But you can also apply if you graduated within the last 5 years, right? So you're all still eligible. Yeah. And
Yes.
in terms of other opportunities as well, are there other sort of entry level or junior roles? Let's say if you have, you've graduated this year and you're looking for a role right now, are there other opportunities as well that you would highlight?
That's a very good question, and I think thanks, Jamal, we do get that question quite a lot. At Diageo, we do get entry-level positions. Usually it's within the commercial space because our commercial teams are quite large teams. So my advice here would probably be to go, I know it's not super helpful, but go to our careers website, Diageo careers website, and set a little alert notification to be notified when the roles go live, because that website and that page is the first one that showcases the role. Okay, it's basically the first one before it lands with LinkedIn and so on. So if you have that notification, you get that alert, you'll be the first one to actually see the role that went live.
I think that's really good advice, definitely, because you have obviously, if you can get on it early, that always helps.
Absolutely.
Question here from Debs: are there opportunities for cross department collaboration during the graduate scheme? So kind of get exposure to different departments, in order to get a broader understanding of the departments and maybe what career path Deborah would want to pursue in that scenario.
I think, so at least for the supply graduate scheme, that's sort of what it's all about. It's 3 years and you're going to be in 3 different functions across that. So last year I was on a manufacturing Guinness packaging site, and this year I'm at 1HQ in London working on business planning for Africa. Completely different. Although, some of that, like some of those people you still maintain the relationship, of course, and actually are interacting with, it's a completely different ballpark. So what enticed me, let's say, to this graduate scheme was the fact that I was going to get 3 unique experiences, and at the end I could then think about what I want to do long term. It's sort of dipping your toe into different parts of the business and just getting a more comprehensive view of what is available.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Another question here from Filoni. So are the case studies in the interview process specific to the role, or are they based on the business generally? If you can share that. I guess that's very specific.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And just because you guys joined us today, I will spill the beans. No, so it depends actually which stage of the interview you're talking about. If you're talking about the video interviewing, so the higher review stage, so our 3rd stage, this year we actually did change our case studies, and they will be relatable to the function that you are applying for. Okay, simply because it will really showcase us, like whether you have the the skills, like, for example, for finance, we previously had like this case from commercial, which is great. However, for finance, there are like certain skills, numerical skills and things that we still require. Therefore, we have changed it a little bit. I can also spill the beans that for marketing, we will have exciting case study about PIMS. I won't tell you any more than that, but we all love our PIMS here in GB. So yeah, some very exciting brands and the cases that you will be solving for sure. And if it comes to the assessment center, it's kind of a mix. I think it has been built. I'll be very honest with you. The assessment center has been built, the whole process with the external provider, that we worked with closely, and it's a very good mix of different case studies to really test your different skills, let's say.
Perfect. Thanks for spilling the beans, and that's why you come to these sessions, get the inside scoop. So I appreciate that. A question here from Yvette. I think we covered that one. Well, you have answered that in another question, didn't you, Jana? So yes, most of the graduates do end up staying full time after the 2-year scheme, which is brilliant. That's exactly what you want, I'm sure. And from Jasharan, the assessment centres will be taking place in November, December, did you mention?
Yes. So depending on and also we will have some online, as Madeline and Maya said, so they were actually doing the online assessment centers, but we are actually very, very happy that this year for our commercial and marketing GB roles, there will be in person. So you actually get to see our London headquarters, very exciting office in Soho. So they will be taking place starting from December, January and February. So hopefully you should hear from us by then.
Awesome. And are you happy you guys can stick around just for a little bit longer to answer the rest of the questions? You've not got to jump off, yeah? Awesome. And thanks again for everyone. We've got lots of questions to get through, so we'll dive into all of those now. So another one from Henry in terms of the commercial role. So Henry wants to know if there's any knowledge or skills in particular that he should maybe focus on there. So I don't know if there's anything you can share on that, Jana, or anyone else. I don't know if it's sort of more marketing focus, more sort of sales focus, relationship building.
I think it'll be Maya. Maya would be great to answer that.
Yeah.
Maya, what skills do you think are needed?
I would say that, like, in terms of like hard skills, so like functional skills, I'd say like that is something that you can learn. What Diageo looks for when they're asking you about what commercial or marketing, whatever, is really like the soft skills. Like, are you good at relationship building? Like, how adaptable are you? How resilient are you? Because those are things that they can't actually teach you. Now, I came from a business background, but a couple of the people in, like, even in my year, but I know the year above me in terms of Diageo scheme, a couple of them came from like psychology or geography, and like obviously that just shows you that like you can apply from any background. So there's no specific knowledge. I think that where you could really kind of stand out in when you're applying, or even like at the assessment center kind of stages, just a wider background of the market in which Diageo operates, so that being fast moving consumer goods, but also then the TBA, so the total beverage whole industry per se. So I think that is somewhere where you could brush up on your knowledge on, but it's not like you have to know like what percentage of sales Diageo own, for example. Yeah.
It'll be quite impressive if you mention it. So definitely, as Maya mentioned as well, guys, one thing I maybe forgot to mention, maybe I already mentioned, but make sure when you apply for this program, like, you talk about specific program, why you're passionate about it. So for commercial, say that, I've recently seen this campaign, or I've read about like the Diageo shares where they performed so well in this market, but maybe not so well in this market. And I was just really interested, how the revenue and things work at Diageo. And so, those like very specific things, why you're passionate about this specific program. Because very often what I would say, we get this answer, which is beautiful, why they love Diageo. But then there's that bit missing of, okay, but why this program? So why should we invest like our time in training you? What would you want to get out of it? We want you to hear like that passion and what you would like to get out of this program, and how we can support you. So yes, definitely make sure that when you answer a question, why Diageo? Why have you applied for this role? Okay, I already spilled that this is going to be one of the questions. Yeah, make sure that you basically say why this particular program.
Brilliant. I think that's answered another question here around the advice on the application process. That's perfect. Another question here from Jennifer. Are there any example projects that we can share for a HR graduate in terms of what goes down in that scheme, Jana?
So we have this great grad with us right now, Leonardo. Leonardo joined us 2 years ago. So I don't know exactly what Leo does, I'll be very honest, like exact projects, but I can just tell you like a couple of functions that he's been within HR, but there was like 3 teams that Leo was working with. So first is our early careers. So he's been fantastic working with us on all the attraction piece, selection piece, going to all the career fairs to get to meet you guys. And then we had 1/3 of his role, it was dedicated to operations. So everything around, you know, the HR systems that we have, the data, how we can improve our operations within HR. And then the third side of his experience was employer branding. So you guys, you know, the logos, the leaflets, all of the things that you see on the website, the videos that we, you know, launch on LinkedIn, that also was part of his role. So really, really exciting. You get to really experience like different areas of HR. And I think for his previous rotation, so this is his second rotation, but his previous rotation, because the whole idea of HR graduate program, it's 2 years long, and we would like you to get experience within the local market. So we actually send you off somewhere where you look after whether it's Ireland or Northern Europe or Southern Europe. And then 1 year you get a rotation within the global team. So this rotation that I just mentioned, the 3 different areas, that's within the global teams. So that's based in London, but Leo was also for a year in Amsterdam working as a HR coordinator for Northern Europe, and he absolutely loved it. So I think I'll see Leo probably evolving into like a HR business partner role after this graduate program.
Fantastic. So super varied HR grad scheme there for you, Jennifer. So definitely check that out. Question from here from Mark. So Mark has asked if there's any extra support for neurodivergent applicants. So Mark's mentioned he's got a master's in international business, but has struggled historically with those sort of pi metrics tests. So yeah, anything to share on that, Jana?
Yes, Mark, thank you so much for this question. And I'm very, very glad, you know, it came through. We actually were discussing with the team today. So when you complete the first stage of our interview application process in Workday, there is this question if there is any special requirements that you might have. So if you state that you do, you actually are getting fast forwarded to the video interviewing. You do not need to do biometrics. Okay, so that's how we're trying to adapt it. And if you mention like what kind of requirements you have, whether it's like extra time and stuff, we are actually trying to currently adapt our process. So even throughout the video platform, hopefully we can set it up that, you know, people who need that extra time can get extra time.
Brilliant. So there you go, Mark. Yeah, and again, really inclusive as well with the process there. So that's perfect. Winifred's got a question around, I mean, we covered this off to some extent in terms of the hybrid working with London. I guess Winifred's based in Manchester and is thinking whether she could potentially commute from there or whether it'd be more of a case of moving. I mean, I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that, Jana, but the salaries themselves are very competitive, actually, aren't they? So you do have the capability, you know, if you are from, you know, London, but there's a role in Dublin that you're interested in, you know, you've got the capability to move because the salaries are obviously very, very competitive. So, and I think it's very important to be open-minded as well about geographies, especially at this point, you know, doing a graduate scheme to sort of try out different places around the UK, even around Europe potentially, because it's kind of a wonderful opportunity right at the beginning of your career, right? But not sure if you've got anything to add to that.
Yeah, so that is a very good question. I think if it comes the hybrid, so there is different like areas of hybrid working, and I think, you know, sometimes like we get it a little bit confused as well. So as we said, we have the flexible policy in our company because, like, for example, one of our team members, so she's currently in Birmingham at home, you know, working from like her family house. However, I do believe that at the beginning it is very, very important to be around the office and being located near the office, because this is the time when you get to know your team, get all this onboarding, get all the training. And we do believe that like having it in person is a little bit more impactful than being remote. Having said that, later down the line, we actually also have a policy that you can work for, is it 4 weeks, 5 weeks abroad? Is that girls? I don't remember. I think I spent it all.
Yes, it's 6 weeks actually.
Yeah. So it's like 6 weeks. We can just work from anywhere in the world. Obviously, as long as it's, you've agreed it with your manager and there's no projects where they require for you to be in person. But the relocation, just to like reinforce the message, in our contracts, when you receive the contract, there is this little paragraph that says, you need to be willing to relocate and flexible with relocation. And we would like to reinforce that, because we feel for us it's a very exciting opportunity to be able to explore, England and other European countries if there's a possibility. But also, as I said, it is very important for us to, at the beginning of the career, to have you in the office experiencing, like meeting the team and like networking and really making impact from like the beginning.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And there's so many benefits you get from being around your team, especially at the beginning of your career. I think that's really, really important before you can, just for osmosis, you learn so much, you get pulled into meetings and all those kind of things. So that's really, really important. Last couple of questions here. So from Sharon. Sharon's a product and design engineering graduate, but also has experience and a master's in marketing, and is asking whether the marketing role would be the one that would be best suited to her. And I think we've kind of touched on this before. You don't need to have a certain degree to go into any of the roles, right? So it's kind of more open than that.
Yeah. So we require a undergraduate bachelor's degree. Yeah. I think that's like a minimal requirement, obviously, for the graduate program that we have. Having masters is fantastic. It's always extra amazing to have an extra layer of like education. But as we said, we don't really look at the background when you apply. So we really would only get to know you and probably find out that you have this degree when you record yourself during that hire view and say, I'm a recent graduate of like masters in marketing, where I had a chance to, and maybe you cover like the subjects that you worked on and maybe favorite project that you had within your modules as well, because if you can hear those like related words as well, that's always very beneficial.
And that's a big tip in itself, I guess, there for you, Sharon. Make sure you mention that masters, in that video interview stage to really get noticed around that. Last question here from Tony. Tony's mentioned that Tony's applied for the role, one of the roles, and has requires sponsorship, but has actually got through to the video interview stage. So I imagine Tony's not going to be rejected now, because because you mentioned the tweak in the system. Potentially that's been fixed. I don't know.
Tony, if you manage to get to video interviewing, you in. It's good. No, it's all good. That's fantastic to hear. So it should be all fine. Obviously, like later down the line when we work with like assessment centers and things, we will be reconfirming the right to work and things, just so we have an overview as well of where our talent is coming from, because it's very interesting to monitor that as well. But for now, good luck with a higher view. Hopefully you took a couple of tips on board from all of us today, but looking forward to seeing your video.
Fantastic. And just as we sort of close out here, everyone, please do drop a comment in the chat and say thank you to our guests. There's a lot of thank yous here already, but and if there's anything specific that you found really useful, please do share that. If there was anything that the guest mentioned that really stood out to you think is really helpful, please do share that and your thank yous as we kind of wrap up from here. They do obviously take their time out of the day to join these sessions. They're very busy, as you've heard, on some big projects. And I think what they shared is going to really help you in applying to those graduate roles, which again, we've got pinned to the top of the chat. So please do go and apply. We really, really do want you to apply and really believe that you can be successful. And that's exactly why we want to do these sessions. And so, yeah, I'm just going to go around with one last question. Well, actually, Grace has asked if you could share your LinkedIn profiles potentially to see if you can connect and stay in touch. So if you're comfortable doing that, feel free to drop in, but no worries if not. Let's go sort of one last question around the virtual room in terms of one thing I wanted to ask was, for one last piece of careers advice, if you think back to maybe what you would tell your younger self who's going into this process or kind of graduating or whatever it is and moving from that transition to being a student into the working world, what would be that one piece of careers advice you would share? Who should we start with? Who wants to go first? I'll let you choose.
Maybe can I start? Is that okay? Because obviously I haven't done the graduate program, and I actually, maybe I should have started like at the introduction when we introduced ourselves. But I actually was born and raised in Poland, and I moved here when I was 13. And obviously the educational system in Poland is slightly different to UK. So I didn't have my parents being able to tell me that something like graduate program exists. So I remember being at uni and all of the friends in September applying for graduate program because that's the hot season. And I was just like, how do you know that you even graduate at the end of this year? Like, why are you applying now? And to be fair, now looking back on it, I would be applying that September in my final year for all those graduate programs, because just looking at how our graduates are doing right now is a fantastic way of accelerating your career. Because it took me 5 years, for example, of just out of uni experience to be at the same job grade with some grads that just did 2 years of graduate programs. So just so you guys, when you will be looking into these things, job grades do matter. Okay, so look into that as well, because it is a fantastic way to accelerate your career. And I know it is about Diageo today that we're talking about, but there's so many amazing grad programs and opportunities out there. Have a look. I'm sure Diverse is sharing some fantastic opportunities for you guys. Apply for as many as you can. It's a great experience to go through these processes as well, because it does help you later on with your interviewing for the normal role as well. If sometimes when I hear some answers on those video interviews, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm taking that for my next job interview. So definitely, practice it and have a look. There's also, the Times 100 top graduates. Just have a look what companies even do graduate programs, check them out and see if, when the graduate programs go live, and apply, because it is a fantastic way to kickstart your career.
Definitely love that. So Madeline, and then Maya to wrap up.
Yeah, I was trying to think. I think looking back, I wish I'd put slightly less pressure on myself when looking for a job. I think you can really focus on, okay, this is what I've achieved. I need to make sure that I get this graduate scheme. It's the end will be all. But I think I wish I'd sort of taken a bit of a breath, thought about all that I'd learned along the way, and just sort of enjoyed it instead of putting so much pressure on things. I think, or maybe not, that's not really any advice, but just, take the time, calm down a bit, and it's all going to be okay.
That's wonderful advice. Yeah, definitely take that on board.
I think for me, it's something I said earlier on, I'd actually did a placement year at a different company. And as much as I love that year on my placement year working for a different company, it really is about not just if the company likes you, but whether you like the company. So take the time to figure that out. Use, like Jana said, apply for everything, but then use the application process to actually narrow down. As much as they're narrowing you down, do the same for them, because there's no point working somewhere where you're not going to be happy or you're not going to be comfortable. I can clearly say and comfortably say, I can bring my good and my bad into Diageo. I can tell my manager I'm having a really bad day. I'm just going to do what I can today, and that's okay. So yes, character is everything in Diageo, but I think that goes for any job. You want to be able to bring yourself into that role and into that job, whatever that looks like. So really look at where you're happy and comfortable as well, I think, is my piece of advice.
Fantastic. Another gem. So thanks so much again for joining us. Really appreciate it. And thank you as well, everyone in the audience, for sticking with us throughout the whole session and asking some really great questions. As I said, go ahead and apply to those roles, and best of luck with your applications. And yeah, hopefully you'll be joining our guests at Diageo next year. So yeah, big thank you again to my Madeline and Jana. It's been a really interesting session for me as well. And I'm sure that everyone in the audience has learned a lot. So thanks so much. And hopefully we'll see you on the next one, maybe next year, with some of the candidates as well.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Good day.
Thanks all.
Thank you. All right, let's leave it there. Thanks so much, everyone. Until next time. Bye.